I think the PPP is in desperation mode. And so they are prepared to violate every convention, every law.
Happy Sunday. Welcome back to The Final Takeaway, where we don't just bring you the headlines. We dive deep into the issues and implications that may impact the lives of others and people like you. A Partnership for National Unity, the APNU leader Aubrey Norton says the People's Progressive Party is, quote, desperate and using, quote, every trick in the book to maintain control and power over Guyanese after the September 1, 2025 elections. Norton's statement came at his recent press briefing, where he updated the nation on key information they need to know about the elections, and he warned supporters on avoiding election violations on polling day. The APNU leader touched on the Guyana Elections Commission's law on the use of cell phones while voting and the alleged government's dominance of the police force. Today, you'll hear from Norton as we unpack why citizens need to know what this means for democracy as they head to the national and regional elections in a few weeks. Let's talk about the police force first and the sore point of its political independence. The Guyana Police Force is part of a democratic country. Therefore, it's designed by law to operate on an apolitical basis, meaning having no interest or involvement in political affairs, not taking government directives, but instead functioning only in the interest of the people, that's the citizens of Guyana who voted the government into office. The Guyana Police Force is an agency that falls under the executive arm of the government. Its leader, the police commissioner, is empowered under the laws of Guyana to function independently of the government. Yet reports indicate that the force is compromised and that some members, not all, some members align themselves with the government, whether for personal benefit or under duress.
The police has been politicized, that the police leadership no longer subscribe to the constitution or the rules governing the police. He subscribes to the governing political party diktats.
When it comes to the opposition parties, they have long held the view that the current Guyana Police Force is a corrupt entity that now serves the PPP's interest instead. Let's bring in Norton again.
The police force is a stooge of the People's Progressive Party. The police force is misused by this regime. Of course, when we say the police force, we mean the leaders taking instructions, because we know that there are good people in the police force. We know that in large measure the police force supports the APNU and will continue to do so, but they are finding themselves in a difficult position because the PPP is afraid of losing, and they're using every trick in the book to ensure they control and dominate.
Citizens also feel this way about the police and the government's relationship. In fact, they've expressed chronic distrust in the police, primarily when it comes to transparency and applying the law fairly and justly. Still on the topic of police corruption, in a 2025 report by the U.S. Department of State, Bureau for International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs, the agency confirms that there is, quote, corruption within law enforcement in Guyana. And hey, corruption is widespread. There is not one country that can say it is free of corruption, whether it's among government officials or the police force. Even though the 2025 report focused on the police's ability to fight drug trafficking in Guyana, it says authorities drop charges or never file them, nor do they conduct serious investigations. This allows violators and criminals to walk free, the report says. Believing the widespread corruption with law enforcement, opposition leaders have repeatedly called for a complete overhaul of the force to restore its integrity. Aubrey Norton promises to institute these changes if his party wins the elections.
All I say to the policemen, bear up. A few days left. You will be free to operate in the country based on the laws, based on professionalism, and you will see the back of this corrupt and unjust regime called the PPP.
Turning our attention to polling day and whether or not to bring your cell phones into the voting booth. By a majority decision that was well supported by government-appointed elections commissioners, GECOM says voters are allowed to carry their phones into the voting booths. But opposition elections commissioners objected to the idea. APNU is against GECOM's cell phone policy on Elections Day, objecting in the interest of protecting the secrecy of the vote and preventing what's called vote buying.
These elections are likely to see the biggest effort in our history to buy votes. Such a scheme is severely undermined when an elector is unable to provide a photograph of his or her marked ballot to the vote buyer. An election in which votes are bought will not reflect the will of the people.
On that note, the party leader implored its supporters to err on the side of caution and avoid taking your phones into the voting booths. While opinions remain divided on the pros and cons on the issue of carrying your cell phone, there is a general public perception that the GECOM policy may undermine the concept of free and fair elections. While the opposition is expressing legitimate concerns, the idea of vote buying remains speculations. We have not seen any credible evidence indicating that commissioners appointed by the PPP government voted to allow cell phones to promote mischief at the polls. Needless to say, if cell phones in voting booths promote vote buying, then who's to say that other political parties may not capitalize on the same GECOM policy? In the same vein, PPP officials have accused Azruddin Mohammed's party, the We Invest in Nationhood Win Party, of giving out money in exchange for votes. And that is something we're going to touch on in a separate video. Meanwhile, voters are being cautioned on a list of acts that may lead to election or voting violations come September 1.
Guyanese must also take note that the following violations of the law carry fines of up to $65,000 and imprisonment of up to 2 years. 1. Directly or indirectly inducing an elector to display his or her ballot after he or she has marked it. 2. Displaying your marked ballot paper for others to see. 3. Unduly influencing an elector by, for example, threats or bribing an elector by money, gift, and other valuables to vote or not to vote. 4. Accepting such bribes, in other words, selling your vote. And 5. Voter impersonation. The risks are not worth it. We urge citizens to avoid such temptation and freely vote their conscience.
While you stay tuned for the next video coming right up, here's our question for you. What's your vote? Should cell phones be allowed or not? Tell us in the comment section. See you in the next video.